Welcome back to the channel, guys. Hope you've been enjoying this week of videos. As of the recording of this video, we have only gotten 3 qualifiers for Queen and King of the Ring. We still have 2 more matches, 1 women's and 1 men's, to establish this. So everything that we are talking about is precursor to what happens on the Monday Night Raw going into the next week. So just wanted to clarify that first. But Jack, Queen and King of the Ring, we have an interesting way things are building up, especially on the men's side. And we've referenced this a few times, but we already have Cody, Randy, and Sami Zayn all qualified, with the potential of Jey Uso as the 4th qualifier for the men's bracket of the King of the Ring. On the women's side, we already have Jade Cargill, Alexa Bliss, and Roxanne Perez, with a potential of a returning Asuka qualifying on the women's side moving in. But let's talk about first how interesting the men's is developing here, because there is so much that we could break down and potentially pre-book the future of 2025 with this King of the Ring tournament.
And I love the way they're doing it with these fatal 4-way qualifying matches, because they're showcasing a lot of great talents. Like, yeah, Randy Orton qualified, but like LA Knight had a great showing in that fatal 4-way match. I don't think he came out of that looking weak. Cody Rhodes wins the fatal 4-way qualifying. Damian Priest looked pretty damn good, as well as Shinsuke and Andrade.
Yep.
Tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw, and as we were recording this, right, we still have those qualifying matches. We're assuming Jey Uso is going to win. I think Jey Uso is the favorite.
Yeah.
But like, let's say a Rusev comes out on top. You know, like Rusev has been booked strongly since he's returned since the Raw the night after WrestleMania. Maybe things get shaken up and Rusev wins this qualifying match and someone takes out Jey Uso. Since Jey Uso lost that World Heavyweight Championship from Gunther, we've also recognized that he's got some injuries that he's dealing with. Maybe he's going to take some time off in the near future.
Yep.
Who's to say he's going to win? But I think if he does win, and I think both you and I think he's going to win, and I think a lot of people think he's going to win, Jey Uso versus Cody Rhodes, we have not seen it one-on-one on this level yet, as both of them as main event stars. We would see that.
Yep.
We're also going to see Randy Orton versus Sami Zayn at some point before King of the Ring in that tournament. There's a lot of stories to be told here. These are 4 main event guys, 4 main event baby faces that are going to be facing off in this tournament to become the new King of the Ring, to face either John Cena, presumably at WrestleMania, or CM Punk and at SummerSlam, excuse me.
Yeah.
Or they're going to face Gunther or potentially Bill Goldberg, I guess, because they're going to have their match before SummerSlam in July at Saturday night's main event in Atlanta. So there's a lot of stories that can be told here and a lot of situations that wouldn't surprise you. I'm curious as to who you think this is going to favor, because there is a Randy Orton, a WrestleMania main eventer. There is a Cody Rhodes, a WrestleMania main eventer. We're assuming Jey Uso is going to win, and Jey Uso very much well deserves a rematch for the world title against Gunther. Does this favor one of those guys, or does it favor, you know, the guy from the underworld that's in this match? Does this favor a Sami Zayn more than it favors anybody else?
I am on the Sami Zayn train for King of the Ring. It's just perfect storytelling if they build it the way I think they're going to do it. And Sami Zayn, obviously the final of the King of the Ring is in Saudi Arabia. They put a lot of stock in Sami Zayn every year, and Sami gets one of the biggest pops every time they're over there. I think it's now Sami Zayn's time. And I'm now starting to understand this little devil on Sami's shoulder in Killer Cross that keeps getting these little TV segments to help push Sami Zayn to that kind of breaking point, to where he has to dig to that side that I don't think Sami Zayn wants to go to actually get what he needs. But Sami Zayn doing something dubious and screwing over one of his friends in either Randy, Cody, or Jay, whoever he has to face in the final, he's going to have to do that. He's going to have to break through and become a different version of the Sami Zayn that we know to get that world title opportunity, and everybody wants to see a world title on Sami. I think we all have seen that he's been able to do kind of what Jey Uso has done recently, but Sami's been doing it for the past 5 to 6 years, especially with the whole bloodline and establishing himself and being one of the most over characters in the bloodline. It's now, and obviously his work with Kevin Owens and main eventing with Kevin Owens in that tag match really showed the stock that Sami Zayn can bring to the table. King of the Ring needs to be Sami Zayn. Randy does not need King of the Ring. Cody has his feud with John already that can establish them in a main event of SummerSlam. Jey Uso, he's already there, and I think we discussed it in a previous video on how Jey, at this point, doesn't need a title for what he's able to establish. Right now, this King of the Ring is Sami's to lose.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Sami Zayn comes out of this looking weaker than any other individual if he doesn't win this match. Randy Orton could lose King of the Ring. He'll still find a way to face John Cena one last time because the fans want to see it.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes could lose this tournament, and he's still Cody Rhodes. He just pinned John Cena last weekend.
Mhm.
He's going to get his title match. Jey Uso is just the world champion. Regardless if Jey Uso could go on a 12-match losing streak, he's still going to yeet out every single arena that there is in the US and overseas.
Yep.
Sami Zayn's the one guy that could come out of this looking weak.
Mhm.
I don't know if I would necessarily go the route of, carrying Cross's influence on him, turning him, because just as Gunther's the dream killer in the ring, I'm going to be the dream killer for Steve Tesh right now. Killer Cross might not be re-signed when his contract's done. That storyline could just be thrown out the window.
Yes.
And then given that a lot of these segments with Karrion Kross are during commercial breaks, which is very odd because I feel
so
like
weird.
outside of the streaming world, nobody sees the commercial breaks.
No.
So it's like, why are these being shown?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I think a lot of people in the States forget that outside of the US, the Canadian feed and the European feed don't have commercials. We get everything that's backstage. There's just a little counter up in the top corner that shows everything. So with the Karrion Kross one last week, I was just like, nobody's seeing this. This is all a commercial break. And like the comment section is being like, where was this? I didn't see this on Raw. It's because it was on during commercial break, which makes no sense. But I still feel that there is something to it. If it's not just Kross having that little influence, it's still having the proverbial devil on your shoulder that Sami needs to push himself just over that edge to get it. Because the one thing is, King of the Ring and Sami being involved, especially being over in Saudi Arabia, send the fans home happy. Now, don't get me wrong, Jey Uso winning King of the Ring, fans are going to be happy. Cody winning King of the Ring, fans are going to be happy. Randy, same thing. They're going to be happy. Like you mentioned, 4 faces here. But in the cultural aspect of this, the biggest pop for someone winning King of the Ring, if Sami's involved, is Sami Zayn. So,
can you explain to me the history between Sami Zayn and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
So he's Muslim. Sami Zayn's a full practicing Muslim.
But there was a certain point in time where he wouldn't travel to Saudi Arabia
because he's Syrian. So Sami Zayn's background is Syrian. And at one point in time, I don't ask me to get into the full political side of things, but Saudi Arabia did not want Sami Zayn in the country because he was Syrian. So that was the whole thing. But it showed when Sami got there and he was in his full dress and speaking Arabic on the mic at these events. He's so over there and they want him there. He's a big draw. So imagine Sami Zayn, one of the people, like he's a Canadian Syrian, but like the one of their people winning the King of the Ring is a huge thing. It would be massive. So I personally think the stock in Sami Zayn for Queen and King of the Ring, and we still have to talk about Queen of the Ring, but I think it has to be Sami Zayn. I don't think there's another choice.
Well, given that he's going to face Randy Orton, right? And I can totally see Sami Zayn beating Randy Orton clean and just having a handshake after the match. can totally see that happening.
Mhm.
I don't think I see him. I mean, I guess he would have to. He'd have to pin either Rhodes or Jey Uso clean. I can't really picture him beating Cody Rhodes clean, given how much stock that they've put in Cody Rhodes.
Yep.
But like that would have to happen almost.
Well, Jay,
Because I also don't see Jey Uso beating Cody Rhodes clean. So there's going to be something going on there. I don't know. Maybe John Cena screws Cody Rhodes initially, and he doesn't even make it to the finals of the King of the Ring because John Cena had this master plan that he was going over on SmackDown, but then Cody Rhodes was kind of the foil in that plan. He pinned him at Money in the Bank. Maybe
Yeah.
John Cena wants nothing to do with Cody Rhodes moving forward, and he takes out Rhodes before he even gets a chance to face him again.
let's just say,
Something's going to happen.
Jack, let's just say this. We also didn't think Gunther was going to be winning the world title last week on Monday Night Raw.
But like him winning doesn't like necessarily shock me and think like, oh, what a horrible booking decision.
Oh no,
It's
but
like, yeah,
clean.
He's a destroyer.
Yeah, but clean. None of us saw that. None of us saw
No.
it. You can't say to me when you saw the poster of Gunther challenging Jey Uso on Monday Night Raw that you said, oh, Gunther's going to win the world title. You know, I'm not saying it's a bad booking decision. All I'm saying is
But I also couldn't tell you that Jey Uso was going to win clean. If Jey Uso beat Gunther again clean, that makes Gunther look bad.
Yeah.
If anything, I saw a potential cash in. When they announced that match like 3 weeks prior, that the fact that they weren't going to have it at Money in the Bank, they were going to have it on Monday Night Raw, to me, I was like, oh, something big's going to happen.
fair. But
And
now
it just wasn't the big thing we were expecting, but something big did happen.
But there's so many avenues right now, especially on the Jay Cody side, that there could be so much involvement in that match that you could have Cena try and cost Cody, but then Ron Killings comes out and attacks Cena, but accidentally hits Cody. You know, it could go so many ways because of the interlying storylines that we have going on. Just like you said on our last one of our previous videos, Cena has so many people after him right now, and Cody's in that involvement, and Cody's still got this focus that he has to do on King of the Ring, but I think his focus is still Cena primarily. He's the main guy. So with Queen and King of the Ring, or for King of the Ring at least, yeah, those matches could go either way, but I just say personally, just the way it all is lining up, I think it has to be Sami Zayn.
I'd be thrilled if it was Sami Zayn because, like we talked about, the other three guys don't need it. They're going to be in the main event scene regardless. King Sammy just sounds right too.
Yeah, exactly. Now, on the women's side of things, we have a qualified Jade Cargill. We have a qualified Alexa Bliss. We have a qualified Roxanne Perez. And out of the three finishes, and first off, all three of these Fatal 4-Ways were great. I enjoyed all of them. Jade looked very impressive. Alexa, the finish between Alexa and with Charlotte, having the figure 8 locked in, and Alexa just hitting the Sister Abigail and just staring Charlotte down for the 3 count. That photo, awesome. And then obviously Roxanne Perez getting that roll-up victory, completely screwing Liv Morgan. Awesome. Stories being told left, right, and center, and it's the stuff that WWE does so well compared to other companies. So depending on who qualifies fourth in this match, I think I'm going to say this, I think we already know who's going to win Queen of the Ring. It's just how they tell a story. I think returning Asuka is your fourth qualifier, which would be really cool. But who do you have for your Queen of the Ring?
I think we already discussed it in past episodes, not directly, but we've discussed who needs the push right now. And I think it's Alexa Bliss. I think Jade Cargill can get by moving forward with the feuds that she's had. Not just with a Naomi or with a Nia Jax, or she could even go after Tiffany Stratton if she really wanted. She's got the stock built up already.
Yeah.
I don't think she needs the Queen of the Ring. Kind of how Alexa Bliss, if she loses again, it's like, where does she go from here? It's like she's since she came back at the Royal Rumble. It's like, yeah, the name Alexa Bliss, it's cool to see her back, but what has she really done? And the more she loses stock. She's still kind of actively influenced by Bray Wyatt. I don't know if she's necessarily just honoring his legacy by using his moves, or is she still kind of influenced by everything going on? Because there was that brief segment with Uncle Howdy that we saw, and I don't necessarily think that she can bounce back from another big loss, especially if they pushed her into the finals and then she lost. I think Alexa Bliss needs a big win to head into SummerSlam to take on whether it be Tiffany Stratton, which I think is the logical choice because
Yes.
they've had so many backstage interactions, or an Io Sky or whoever else is holding the WWE Women's Championship at that point. But I think Alexa Bliss is primed and ready for a big win. And because of the way that she won, maybe they find a way to add Charlotte Flair in there and you have a triple threat at SummerSlam. Maybe that's one of your night one main events.
Yep. And this is one of my biggest concerns because I want to say Alexa Bliss because I agree with you on all fronts that, as we've mentioned countless times now, she needs something. I think my big thing is using the Sister Abigail. First off, I think Alexa Bliss does the Sister Abigail better than Bray Wyatt did. That's a big shoot, and I apologize, but that's how I see it. And she's always needed a better finisher because her Twisted Bliss, it just doesn't fit her persona. So using that move, I think works for her, and it's paying slight homage, but it's not her entire character anymore, which is great. My biggest concern with Alexa Bliss is they are almost linking her up to a point where with Charlotte Flair that it's almost like, are they actually going to put Alexa in another tag team? Because we had her into the tag team with Nikki ASH, and that was a failed whatever that was. But obviously there's two strong women's world champions. That's what we got, 20 plus world titles or women WWE championships between those two. They could easily run rampant with those tag titles, but I don't want to see the tag title on Charlotte Flair or Alexa Bliss. It's almost sending them 10 years backwards in my mind. So I want it to be Alexa Bliss, but I just think they have a different vision for SummerSlam, and that vision is a potential feud between Jade and Bianca, and then involving Naomi in that cash-in between the three of them. So I agree with you tenfold for Alexa Bliss to win the women's Queen of the Ring, but I think it's already written in the stars for Jade Cargill to take it and then have that feud with Bianca returning right before SummerSlam, and then Naomi being the one that cashes in and getting the big pop on the night one. I see.
So are we just insinuating that Io Sky's dropping the title to Bianca?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. But which would be horrible because it would be another SummerSlam that Bianca loses the title. You know what I mean? So, but I know there's more of a build to it, but I think there's more for Jade, especially Naomi potentially costing Jade a chance at winning a title at SummerSlam and then building that entire feud heavy into the fall, because obviously Jade lost part of her last year because of Naomi, and then Naomi potentially cashing in on Jade and costing maybe Jade winning at SummerSlam against whomever, and then Naomi cashing in right away would be like, oh wow, she was that girl for a minute, and then Naomi, so I think
it just amplifies that feud.
Exactly.
Like, we've already kind of told it to a degree, but like same thing with Punk and Rollins.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of added another layer to the rivalry with Rollins turning heel and joining forces with Heyman. Now he's got Money in the Bank. There's certain elements that made it better, and putting the title on that feud makes it better. Yeah. So I definitely see that. It's just about Bianca taking the title from Io Sky and then like completely getting rid of her in that title scene. That would happen pretty quick.
It would happen pretty quick, and the other part is it could be something like Tiffany getting with the Nia Jax thing. Like Nia Jax is getting heavily involved with Tiffany again, so that's kind of telling that story again as well.
Yeah.
So unless Naomi decides to cash in early and Naomi's the champion going into SummerSlam, you know, and then you've got Jade as that number one contender for that title, and you know, Naomi, Jade, and then Bianca returns on whoever that champion is at the end of that match. So it all depends, but you're right again, like I said with the Alexa Bliss thing. I think there's more value for Alexa right now because she doesn't have that path. But I think the stock is in Jade Cargill, and whoever they pick, I think we're going to get good stories on either side of things. But I'm going with Jade Cargill for the women's.
What I love about not just King of the Ring, but with the Money in the Bank contract this year around, it seems like there's really multiple different ways that you can go with booking this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we've had this in past years, at least recently, where it's like the Money in the Bank winner, like you kind of knew who they were going to cash in on in past years. This year, it's like, oh, they can go after any champion because all superstars are kind of showing up on both shows. There's no real like
Draft.
show loyalty anymore.
Yeah.
That's kind of out the window.
Yeah.
Which after like years of having brand splits, it's kind of refreshing. It allows you to tell more stories.
Yeah.
And from the King and Queen of the Ring, it's like you kind of knew Gunther was going to win last year. You kind of knew Nia was going to win the way they kind of stacked it up, right?
Yep.
Where this year, it's like you could go with any one of the final four people on either side, and it would be great. You could tell a story. They've done a really good job at making you really think about what's going to happen and think, I'd be happy with any route that they go here.
Imagine the intolerable Roxanne Perez as Queen of the Ring in the Judgment Day clubhouse and how much that would eat at Liv Morgan. Like, dude, there's a story there. It's like, well, Liv Morgan and Raquel are tag champions. They could drop that at any second. And then the only person to bring substance to the Judgment Day is Roxanne Perez. And Finn Balor could just turn and be like, so Liv, what have you done lately? You know, and there's that whole feud there. Oh man, Roxanne as Queen of the Ring would be literally as insufferable as Liv Morgan.
Well, let me ask you this. Does Dom turn on Liv and then start making out with Roxanne? Because I feel like that would just, I mean, it would add to his obviously heelish ways, but like, do we want Dominic Mysterio to become a massive heel again? Or do we want to see him start to turn more babyface?
I could go either way with it. I would be happy with either way. I love slimy Dominic Mysterio because really slimy Dominic Mysterio reminds me of like greaseball Eddie Guerrero when he was with China back in the day, like that the true Latino heat, not the Latino heat that everyone, the happy-go-lucky. I'm talking like that slimy Latino heat that pinned his girlfriend for the IC title. If you want your wrestling knowledge, you know, Eddie Guerrero laying on top trying to console China, and the referee counts the 3 and Eddie steals the title and runs away. You know, that is
I lie, I cheat, I steal.
Yeah.
One of the greatest gimmicks and one of the greatest entrance songs of all time in wrestling.
Absolutely. But Dom really embodies all of it. So, you know, he's got quite a roster. He's got his gorgeous wife at home, and then he's had Mommy, he's had Liv, he's potentially looking at Roxanne Perez right now. Like, this man's got a better roster than Buddy Murphy at this point. So, and you know, maybe that's where we'll end it on that. But all right, your final pick, men's and women's winners.
I'm still going with Sammy. I think we agree on Sammy.
Yep.
I think he needs it the most. I think he's the only one that comes out of that looking weak if he were to lose. I am still going to go with my Alexa Bliss pick because even with the story that you told about Jade Cargill, I think you could still get there without putting the Queen of the Ring on Jade Cargill. I think Alexa Bliss needs a big win. She hasn't gotten it since she came back in January. I think it's her night in Saudi Arabia on June 28th. And regardless if you tell Bliss versus Stratton, and then you somehow, some way get to Belair versus Jade Cargill, you could still tell that story with Naomi in the cash-in.
Yeah, fair
But
enough.
I'm gonna stick with Sami Zayn and Alexa Bliss.
I'm gonna go with Sammy. I'm sticking with Sammy. We both come to the agreement that Alexa is probably the better choice, but I'm gonna stick with Jade Cargill. But I'll tell you right now, Lily would look great with the Queen of the Ring crown. Guys, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and put the bell on for all notifications. We'll see you tomorrow.